So it's Monday the 24th of June, and this is not obviously the happiest Monday night look that we've had at the markets. Had a bit of a rough day out there, not across the board, and the same is true in kind of broader stock indexes as well. So in the S&P, or in the US indexes like the S&P and the Nasdaq, pretty nasty down day, but the Toronto Stock Exchange, the FTSE, the DAX, all had pretty decent green days. So it's not a universal thing, and it may be, just what's going on in the world at the moment. And the same is true in crypto, because we've had a pretty nasty pullback day and a loss of quite interesting support in Bitcoin. For example, in Bitcoin today, when we were pulling back, I was looking at this weekly 20 moving average to be really important support. It's been really good support previously. It's just one of those things that you can normally, first time back to it, get a pretty decent bounce off it. And we got a really decent bounce off it when we tested it at the end of April. And one of the other reasons that I thought that this 20 moving average would hold as support is, if I measure this first swing lower that we made in Bitcoin and project it from this high, it also lined up with the 61.8, where this swing, if it was a C, would be 61.8 of this first leg, which is an A. So we've lost that support. And for me, unfortunately, that usually points to potentially an equal measured move lower. So I think I can kind of say that if we don't regain this weekly 20 moving average, and if we don't regain 61,300, we are potentially looking around 55,000 for the next support. However, if I go down to the daily, you can see that we are coming up on the daily 200 moving average. Does that work in Bitcoin? Yeah, it does. It was pretty interesting support and resistance when we finished our correction in September last year. And it also, once we got above it and found support from it, it was a really good indication that the correction was over and we were on our way up again. And so potentially, even if we get underneath this daily 200 moving average, which I think we might do, getting back above it again and would be a really good signal that we are potentially found support and are on our way up again. Now, if I zoom out here, let's go back to the weekly. In Bitcoin, then, from the lows that we kind of made at the end of 2022, we can draw a rough channel that we're in. So I've got 2 touches here on the bottom of this channel, 2 touches on the top side. And so we're coming up on a third touch of this lower rail. And third touches, whether it's horizontal or whether it's of trend lines, third touches are generally false breakouts. So in order to confirm this trend line, that's what everybody is looking at, I would expect us to break underneath it and then recover it. That tends to be what happens when you get third touches. I'm pretty generous with these channels and drawings. I like, I think we've got a little bit further to fall till we get it if we line up these two exactly. But that's what I would expect. So don't expect it to hold and be super sharp. And it may even be, obviously, that we break down here. But when we have had previous bull cycles, for example, somebody in my group pointed out 2016 to 2017, we had a 20% pullback in the markets 12 times before that bull run was over. In the 2020-21 bull market, it happened 9 times. So far, in this bull market, we have had 4 20% pullbacks. So this is all, even when you look at this, you can see we're riding these weekly moving averages. This is a choppy sideways correction. This is not any kind of a start of a bear market. This is just a correction in a bull market for now. And to be honest, we need the kind of sentiment to get really low and people to get really miserable about Bitcoin for it to bottom. So as I see people's sentiment going, I am pretty hopeful that perhaps we could find a bottom soon. So one thing I do know is that Bitcoin and ETH have fallen harder than pretty much anything else, which says to me that this may be connected to the upcoming sales of Mt Gox repayments, which are due to start in July. I actually don't think that they're going to be as awful as people think they are. the total number of Mt. Gox Bitcoin are less than one Bitcoin ETF holdings. And I'm not sure, my best friend who got me into crypto years back is waiting for his Mt. Gox payout. It's going to make him very wealthy. I'm not sure he's going to sell in a hurry. Most of these people, if you're a Mt. Gox creditor, then you have literally had years and years and years of claims funds trying to buy your claim off you and get the money. And a lot of these people have bought these, and I'm not sure that these claims funds are just looking for a quick profit. I think that they are accumulating in their high net worth bitcoiners who are looking to kind of add to their stash, if you like. So I don't think that this Bitcoin Mt. Gox issue is going to be as big as people think it is. But one thing we are seeing at the moment, this is altcoins against Bitcoin. Somebody on Twitter pointed this out. So you can see that versus Bitcoins, these altcoins are not doing that badly. So the biggest fallers at the moment are Bitcoin and ETH. And if you think about it, Bitcoin had the biggest, got ahead of the curve, if you like, with the ETFs. And so a little bit of a pullback wouldn't be, I think it's a great opportunity. Let's put it that way. We just need to wait until it bottoms and trade carefully. So that's where we are with Bitcoin. Underneath, unfortunately, the weekly 20 moving average, which potentially, unless we recover it, sets us up for lower. If we take a look at where we are in Ethereum, it's not quite so bad, because here we are holding this weekly 20 moving average that we have just lost in Bitcoin, holding it pretty nicely. If you look, we had this rocket on the ETF news, and these have been very little choppy corrective candlesticks so far. Again, if I measure from this high, let's put this back on and let's clean up here. If I measure from the high in March to the low in April, projected from this high that we made in May, we haven't quite got to this 61.8 level yet. It comes in at 3,160. So I do think, just like Bitcoin has a little bit further to fall to test that 200-day moving average and that trendline channel, I think that ETH has a little bit further to fall, and 3,160 is the likely next level I would be looking at for support, unless this turns into something bigger, which I'm not entirely convinced of at the moment. But it is, if you are, rather than looking at negatively, I do think that this will be a buying opportunity for the next run higher. So let's take a look at some of the ones that are outperforming. Because in a sell-off like this, for me, the little altcoins that do pretty well and hold their own and hold up tend to outperform when the market starts going up again. So one of them is LIDO Finance. LIDO. Look at this lovely channel that we are holding. This is a parallel channel, so you can see these are equal. And we are back above these moving averages. We made a very nice little double bottom here. And so I think we are setting up at a minimum another leg higher here, but we've held the bottom of this channel and above these moving averages. Potentially we could be on our way to a bigger swing and new highs. Now, if we go down a time frame and we look, we got rejected before at the 200-day moving average, 2.6. And so really that should be the first target, because that's what we need to get above. And then when we get above it, I'm going to go fib retrace levels in this one, because we had a very nice reaction at this 236 fib. I'm going to say this 50% at 2.77. So above 2.47, 2.77, and beyond that, I think the top of the channel, this one is holding up. ONDO Finance is another one that has, for some reason, been outperforming very nicely. Let's try and find, here we go, ONDO. Now, we could draw this as a channel, just like we drew LIDO. Can connect the lows here, and yes, we've got a very nice little third touch, and here's our little channel that we have got going on potentially. I'm not sure that this is true, but we are definitely holding these daily moving averages. We've held above these highs. This was one I was a little bit cautious on. I had some, but I got out, I sold quite a lot because this was an equal measured move. So by that I mean I measured the first swing higher here, and then if this was a three-wave correction and this was the second swing, we reversed exactly at this equal measured move level. And I normally say, well, if you do that and you get underneath the 61.8, you're going to see a bigger retrace, normally like a whole 786 of this whole run. But for now, we're holding this 61.8, we're holding these daily moving averages. So I'm going to look and see now what happens with this next leg higher. Is it just going to be a three-wave rally like this three-wave pullback, setting up a bigger correction? Or are we going to see something stronger and more impulsive in ONDO? Certainly it's not underperforming, and it hasn't had a, against the dollar, certainly hasn't had a really ugly day. So what I don't want to see again is a corrective. So I'm going to measure like this from this low to high. 1.332 then is going to be key resistance. That would, and if we get above that, I would look for a retest of the highs to see if we keep going higher. I really do like it when the moving averages jumble up and tighten up like this, because when you get a move, you tend to get an explosive move out of it. It's just like here, bunched up our daily moving averages, got into a narrower and narrower range, and when we broke out, we have a really nice move. So that means in this sideways range, you know, we could have a little bit more sideways here in ONDO. But if you stick to good buy entries, you know, then if we do try another leg higher, we should see a really nice move higher from here. Another one that has not looking too bad is Render. Now, this is another one. 1, 2, 3. This is 61.8 of this first swing. Pretty good place to bounce from, and pretty good support and resistance. This opening high from 2021 and the lows here from March and April, holding the March and April lows. So I'm looking to see if we can rally from here. If we don't and we lose this support and level and support and resistance level at 6.8, obviously we're going to do a bigger drop down to this weekly 50 moving average down here at 5 and potentially 4.3. So pretty key support. I'm looking at on a lower time frame on the daily here. You can see we're bunched up underneath this 200-day moving average. So we're not kind of out of trouble yet, or definitely going up, but it's one of those really decent levels to look and see if we can break out. And these double bottoms usually give you a nice move. Now when you do get a little double bottom like this, so this is the bottom of the range, this is the top of the range, this is resistance. If we're just gonna do a corrective bounce here, that's going to be key at 8.26, and above 8.26 I think we can say potentially that we've bottomed and we're looking for higher. Watch out we don't just get a little false break and then collapse. So that's what I'm looking for in Render. Sushi is another one that's on a pretty interesting support level. Here's Sushi, just previous lows and highs. Again, when you look at the awful down day that Bitcoin and other markets have had today, this kind of price action at these lows, it's not a bullish reversal yet, but potentially this false breakdown and this swing failure pattern could turn into a bigger one. It's certainly holding the support, and it's holding the lows from way back in April in Sushi as well. This is Sushi against the dollar. Swing failure pattern. First target then is going to be this high here, 0.87, above 0.87. We can talk about a bigger bounce, maybe 50% of this drop. Let's go up to the daily moving averages, daily 50, and so on, and potentially then a double bottom and back to the top of the range. It's holding these range lows pretty nicely then in Sushi. So pretty nasty down day. Not everything is awful. Just look out for the little gems in the carnage out there, and until you see something really good, just keep an eye on them. Just look at the ones that are are outperforming, because when the whole market turns up again, we'll be looking at these to see if they can outperform.